Hi, this is Nick, and at my day job, we wanted to do a little team building exercise, and we decided to do a little fantasy football league. And we had quite a number of people who had never played fantasy football before, so I made this little presentation, kind of give them the basics and show them what it's all about. And so I thought I'd share it with you. If you want to download this PowerPoint presentation, it'll link to download it will be in the show notes. I'm just going to go over this really quick and kind of give you just the basics of how to play fantasy football. This is Fantasy Football 101. So, in regular football fandom, you cheer for one team. So my favorite team is the Browns. Go Browns. So when you're cheering for one team, you basically only care about one game per week. And if your team's really bad, like Cleveland's been until recently, your team may be out of the playoffs by mid-October. So then that just gives you nothing to cheer for in later half of the year, like December, January. So what's fantasy football in comparison? You are cheering for individual NFL players and a defense and special teams. But so one of the key differences then is you're not invested in just one game per week. You care about maybe up to 9 games per week, and hopefully you'll do well and then care about football further into the season. So as you can see, here's a screenshot from the Yahoo Fantasy Sports app. So these were all the different players, and you can see these helmets. These are all the different teams the players are from. So what is fantasy football? So this is from NFL.com. It is, of course, fantasy is a math-based game based on real-life production of NFL players. Each week you fill in a roster of starting players, various positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and all offense positions. And then you also get a kicker and a defense/special teams. And then through different actions that occur on the field, scoring touchdowns, making catches, making tackles, whatever, the players get points. So your players get individual points, you add that all together, and your team gets a total score. Then you go head-to-head with another player in your league, see who wins. Some terminology, I'll go through those as we go through this presentation. So the basic steps, first is a one-time setup of downloading an app on your phone. So you need to figure out, first of all, I guess, which app or website you're going to use. I prefer the Yahoo Fantasy Sports. It's the one I've had experience with. It's easy to use. They give you lots of projections of what they think the players are going to do, so you don't even have to put any thought in it if you don't want to. So next, you need to join a league or start your own, and then draft your players. So that's the one-time setup you do at the beginning, and then every week you set your starting lineups by choosing which 8 players and 1 defense you want to play each week. So you get 15 slots. You have to play 9 of them every week. So then the total number of weeks of the season depends on the number of players in your league and how you do the playoffs, how many people make the playoffs, and so on. And the first NFL game for 2021 is Thursday, September 9th, so you need to have a draft and get your team set up before then. So again, I use the Yahoo Fantasy app, but of course there's different ones, CBS, ESPN, NFL, which I can't comment on those because I haven't used those, but I assume they're pretty similar. So again, so one person needs to be the commissioner of the league. They set it up. They invite people. Everyone accepts the invitation. You choose your team name, add a photo if you want, and you need to determine the draft time. This is where you get to pick all of your players. So you can see on the right here, this is an example of all the players this person got: quarterback, running backs, and there's the WR/T is your flex spot. That can be a wide receiver, a running back, or a tight end. So here's a basic overview of NFL. So first you start with a pool of all the NFL players, a couple hundred players. So step 1 is to draft your team of 15 players. This only happens one time. So let's say if there's 10 people in your league, you and 9 other people, you each draft 15 players. So that's 150 players. I don't know if you know 1,000 plus players in the NFL. But of course, that you don't pick any offensive linemen. You don't pick individual defensive players. Mostly just offensive players. You pick your 15 players. That's a one-time thing. So then that's the first step. So then on how you play on a weekly basis is to you have to whittle your 15 players down to 9 active players that are actually going to get you points for the week. So you have people on the bench who are not going to score you any points. So you may have 2 quarterbacks on your team, but you got to pick which one you're going to play for that week. And if you pick one and he only scores 10 points, but your guy on the bench scores 30 points, well, you made a bad decision and you don't get those. You only get 10 points for your active player. So let's say your players aren't doing really well. You can swap out players out of the ones who are still available, who the other teams haven't picked. So on a weekly basis, you swap out fully performing players for better ones using something called the Waiver Wire. So here's a screenshot of the Yahoo app. So here's where you can see the active players at the top. And the BN is for bench. You also get a slot for injured reserve. So a lot of fantasy comes down to luck. If your players just not getting injured is things. These Q marks as questionable, meaning they're either sick or injured and may not play in the game. So you probably don't want to have them in your starting lineup. Put them on the bench here because if they don't play, they're not going to earn any points. And you can see here, this is defense and special teams kicker. So here's what the Yahoo Fantasy app looks like. My team, and then here's where you can see your players, your matchup that week, who you're going against, and then other league stats. So the nice thing about this app is it shows you your projected points for each player. So they try to predict how many points each person is going to get. So this quarterback, they're projecting 21 points. This quarterback only 2 points. So I probably want to play him. So the lineup, again, you get 1 quarterback, 2 slots for wide receiver, 2 for running back, a flex spot, defense and kicker. Then 6 bench spots plus 1 for injured reserve. So there's different scoring methods. One is PPR, points per reception. That's where anyone who catches a pass gets points. You can set up how many points that is, whether it's half a point, 1 point, 2 points. There's lots of different options, different ways to play, but this is how I do it, is 0.5 points per reception. Again, if you make changes, if you increase this value, then that would make a position that's going to catch a lot of passes like wide receiver more valuable than, say, running back. So then here's more scoring. Quarterback gets 1 point per 25 yards passing, and so on. I mean, you don't have to really worry about this because everything is all automatically calculated. So every week you go up against head-to-head against another person in your league. There's some tips. Games are played Thursday night through Monday, of course, sometimes Saturday later in the season. So you want to have sure your lineup is locked in before the game start. So and a key point I tell people is you can put as little time into this, every week, 2 minutes a week, or you put as much time as you want. Waiver wires, again, where you add and drop players based on their performance. So there's something called a bye week where the NFL season, they play 17 games this year. The season's 18 weeks long, so there's 1 week where they don't play a game. So if your player's not playing in a game, you're not going to make any points. So even though if you want to stick with 1 quarterback throughout the whole year, there's going to be 1 week where he doesn't play. So you're going to have to pick up another quarterback to play for that week at some point. That's what the waiver wire is for. Yeah, so here's bye weeks. That's exactly what I just talked about. So here's then showing what an actual game result looks like. So this person on the left, they scored 143 points. The person on the right, 95. So this person won. You can see the projected points for Joe Burrow was 19. He scored 20.4. Tom Brady projection was 20, but he only had a bad game and only scored 9 points this week. I think this was the game where Barkley was injured, so he only scored 2.8 points before he went out of the game with injury. So what I like about Yahoo is it gives you lots of stats and breakdowns of the game and what happened. So you can see this person took the lead on the Thursday night game and then never gave it back. And you can see the breakdown by position. So their wide receivers were really good. Tight end got them nothing. Very important players. So some tips. Lots of leagues. Usually the first player drafted is running back. Not every position needs a backup. Like you probably only want to carry one kicker out the year because the difference between the best, or if there's only 10 players in your league, the top 10 kickers in the NFL are probably pretty similar. But not all positions are graded equal. So again, usually kickers and defense are in later rounds. Your first 9 picks don't have to be your 9 starters. Um, and you can put as little time or as much time as you want into this. So some example scenario, you have a really good wide receiver. Maybe one week he's going to go up against the best pass defense in the NFL. You have an okay wide receiver, but he's going up against an average pass defense. Normally, you think you want to play your best player, but if you're looking at the matchups, maybe you think, oh, if it looks like he's going against the best, defensive back in the league, maybe he's not going to have as good a game, so maybe it'd be safer to play your backup player. So there's all kinds of scenarios like that. If you want to get deeper into it, you can try to analyze those. And here's more resources if you want to learn even more. I'll put these links in the show notes and more of my resources too. Like I've made the NFL helmet schedule every year. I can make an NFL draft game. Of course, the Super Bowl squares is really another fun game you can play with using an Excel spreadsheet. So overall, have fun. Lots of leagues like to have prizes for the winners, and they also like to do humiliations or punishments for the losers. Like, I have to put a "I suck at fantasy football" bumper sticker on my car or things like that. It's crazy. There's some crazy things out there. But yeah, just come up with fun names. Have some friendly trash talk in the office and things like that. So yeah, the whole point of fantasy football is to have fun. Again, you can download this presentation using the link in the show notes. If you have any questions about fantasy football, feel free to let me know. Thanks.